and welcome back to Doonhamer Diaries, the podcast where we go back in time and relive the highs, the lows, the challenges and everything in between with the players and staff who live and breathe the beautiful game. I'm Emily Copeland and today I'm delighted to be joined by Assistant Manager at Queen of the South, Colin McMenamin. He had a playing career spanning over 20 years with 533 appearances and 250 goals at clubs like Queen of the South, Gretna, Ross County, Livingston and Shrewsbury, before starting out in coaching and management at clubs like Stenhousemuir and Annan Athletic before going back full circle, joining Queen of the South as Assistant Manager in 2024. And from the pitch to the dugout, this is his story. Colin, welcome to Doonhamer Diaries. Great to have you on. Thank you for agreeing and for your time this afternoon.
No problem at all. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we'll start, obviously, growing up in Dumfries, who would you say your footballing idols were?
Growing up in Dumfries, there wasn't much football happening. I used to come to watch Queen of the South when I was younger. So it would probably been then. It would be your Tommy Bryces and Stevie Mallins, Andy Thompsons. Away from that, it's just probably my mum and my family. So growing up in Dumfries, playing with Max Thistle and Colside. So I had the youth coaches, John Winnan and Billy Cross, who people of my age will all know. So there's lots of people kicking about Dumfries that played a wee positive impact in it.
You started playing with the Queen of the South and the Annan Youths. Can you tell us a little bit about that time?
Yeah, well, I joined Queen of the South when I was 14 for the S forms. And when I turned 15, the Queens told me I was too small. I wasn't going to make it, wasn't good enough. And kind of tried to put me on loan to one of the youth teams, which I didn't want to do. So they held on to my registration till I turned 16, so I didn't play football for a year. My mum's got a wee dislike still to this day with Queens, but when I finally got away from my registration at 16, I ended up playing Southern Counties, which is probably the South of Scotland League now. So I was playing kind of adult football at 16, and from there on I went to Annan Athletic under 18s and had a good season with the 18s, and I was in and out the first team at Annan then. The season after that, Davy Irons, who was the manager at Annan, was a huge influence on me and threw me straight into his first team, which was a big deal. Annan were playing in the East of Scotland League and probably the best team in the region out with Queen of the South. So it was a wee baptism of fire and I really enjoyed it.
What do you think the biggest challenges of making that jump from youth to professional men's sort of football?
I've done it kind of different way to everybody else. Everybody can go through academies and stuff, but I started playing adult football at 16. I think that was really helpful for me. It was opened my eyes up to the adult game really, and the ins and outs of winning 3 points on a Saturday and what it means to people. I'm very lucky that I had a lot of boys that looked after me at that time, especially at Annan when I was only a 17, 18-year-old boy trying to make my way in the game. We had some right good pros who played at Queens. We had Stan Leslie, we had Kevin Proudfoot, Mark Nichol. All these boys kind of helped me settle down and made the jump smaller than what it probably should have been.
How did your family sort of influence your journey into football, and did you always kind of want to be a striker, or was there
Well, I started as a winger and gravitated to a striker. My mum come to watch every game. She still tries to come to most games now. She stays 5 minutes up the road in Lochside. My uncle Philip, he goes through how he made me a player. He was always bouncing a ball with me. So, and also I had a younger brother, so he was always wanting to play football. So between the two of us, we were constantly guarding, playing over at the garages and including, and it was just all about scoring goals for me. So I gravitated towards becoming a striker, and nobody else really had a choice. It's just all I wanted to do when I was younger.
Is there anything that you'd tell your younger self starting out in the game now, looking back on sort of how far you've come?
I would definitely tell me to take things a wee bit more seriously, especially the way the game's changed now in nutrition and weights and sports science. I think I should have been a wee bit more professional when I was younger. But luckily, as my career progressed, I managed to do that side of the game. But I would say to any 16, 17-year-old that they need to get their weights programs sorted. They need to look after their body. They need to eat the right things. But when I was coming through at that age, it wasn't such a big thing. But it's a huge thing now, and it's something I wish I'd done when I was younger.
How did it feel to make your move to Newcastle United at such a young age?
Very surreal. I played with Annan on a Saturday at home to Whitehill Welfare. I think we drew the game, but I'd scored. And on a Monday morning, I was straight down to Newcastle and I'm straight into first team training with Alan Shearer and Gary Speed and Rob Lee. So it was very surreal. A wee boy for including going straight into that environment. And to be fair, I probably struggled the first couple of weeks to get my head around it. But first team pros there were great. And obviously there was a few Scots boys down there with Ryan McGuffey from Dumfries and Brian Kerr, the Caldwell brothers. And even in the first team, I had Stephen Glass and Kevin Gallagher, who all looked after the Scottish boys. So they made it quite easy to settle in. And I was lucky that I had my mates there that I knew from playing in the youth leagues in Scotland to help me out.
Did it sort of make it easier for you going down there knowing that there was some familiarity in Ryan McGuffey, who's also a former Doonhamer, who also made the move at around the same time?
It is. I've grew up with Ryan. Me and Ryan grew up since we were 4 or 5 together. His dad and my dad were best friends. We've knew each other for forever. We're still in touch now. So when I first moved down there, me and him had a flat together. I didn't drive, he did, so he was my chauffeur as well. And then it made it easier for me to come in and just having somebody there I could lean on, somebody there I could talk to. And even once we left Newcastle, we played again with each other at Gretna, we played again with each other at Queen's. And he's living in Australia now, and we're still in touch now.
How big would you say the influence was from your former manager or teammate? Influence, Stan Leslie being one of them, David Irons being another one, and helping you sort of make up the mind on the move?
Yeah, well, I touched on it a wee bit. When I was at Annan, I never thought I'm going to go and have a football career. I just concentrated on Annan, thinking that was it. I know Stan especially was hard on me when it came to no doing the right things because he said I had a chance and I had an opportunity. But also had Kevin Proudfoot and Mark Nicholas I've mentioned. Between the three of them, they really made me think, right, maybe I've got a route to be better here. And it was David Irons that was probably the biggest influence. I've said it to many people that if it wasn't for David Irons, I would never have became a professional footballer. He was in touch with clubs all over Scotland when I was going to Newcastle. I had the opportunity to sign for St Mirren, I had the opportunity at Dundee United, Dunfermline, St Johnstone, Carlisle United. But when Newcastle came in and Davy said to me that play at the highest level you can and give it a go, and it was probably he's the main reason that's why I went to Newcastle.
You were straight in with first team training at Newcastle. What was the transition like? Different standard and environment to what you'd been used to before?
It was night and day. The standard was ridiculous. We had the then England captain with Shearer being there, Bobby Robson, who'd managed the biggest clubs in the world. The standard was phenomenal, and I struggled to find my feet for the first couple of weeks. But as I said, with the help of the Scottish players there, and even the coaches, Tommy Craig being Scottish and really helping me, it was something that I managed to get my head round. And fortunately enough, I managed to get myself a contract down there that got me a couple of years down there and probably the best education I could have got.
There was first team players like Alan Shearer, Gary Speed, Craig Bellamy, Kieran Dyer, John Carver, one of the coaches, most recently the Scotland assistant manager. What were the sort of experiences of being in the same team and environment as the likes of the names mentioned?
Well, they were ruthless in training. They trained every day as if it was their last training session. Chai C, who's obviously at Scotland now, was a great coach. He was a lot for the youth players coming through, and proper Geordie that loved the club. But the players demanded of you. Some of them were a bit hard on you, but Kieran Dyer could be really hard on the young players. Whereas Craig Bellamy would lift you up. He was fantastic, especially with the younger players. He would encourage us. He would get on at us for the right things. Shearer would come up to you and talk to you about certain things, especially with me being a striker and what could be different, what could be better. And it was just a great environment. Newcastle were a huge club. The 2 years I was there, I think they finished third and fourth in the Premier League and got to the Champions League 2 years running. So it was always going to be really difficult to break into the first team with the amount of players in front of me. But it gave me a really good grounding and gave me the chance to have a career in football.
Did you sort of learn anything from your time at Newcastle, despite unfortunately not making a first team appearance?
Oh, I learnt loads. I learnt what it meant to be a footballer and what you had to do to become better. The 2 years at Newcastle made me realise that if I was going to become a footballer, I needed to work in every single part of my game and not just shooting and finishing all the time. I needed to look after my diet. I need to be better in the gym. So it did, as I said, it gave me a great grounding to become a player.
Played for a number of clubs across Scotland and England: Gretna, Dundee, Queen of the South, Ross County, and more, just to name a few. I know each will have their unique memories as well as some tough times, but which do you look back on the most fondly and why?
Really tough question. I've probably done 5 or 6 different podcasts and I've probably changed my answer every time. I've said that I loved my time at Queen's when I was here. The 6 months I had at Queen's when it was the Queen of the South supporters that clubbed in the money together to sign me after I'd just been made redundant at Dundee through administration. And it was a big blow to me and I was kind of disillusioned with the game and I came to Queen's under Kenny Brannigan. I think we finished fourth in the championship that year. Played 4 or 5 different positions because the squad was so tight and I loved every minute of it. And it was a very difficult decision to go to Ross County after that. But it was probably the best thing for me to go to Ross County. And I had the best year and a half in my career at Ross County. I loved every second of it. We won the championship, we got into the Premier League, to finish top goal scorer, I'd won the player of the years and stuff. And it was just a great changing room to be in. Playing with the likes of Michael Gardine and Rocco Quinn, Graham Monroe. We had a great camaraderie, a great mix of boys. And I just loved my time at Ross County and I really miss the boys. We're all still in a group chat now. It was just a great time to be part of it.
At Gretna, you were the top scorer in the First Division and helped secure the promotion in the 06-07 season. What was that season sort of like for you?
It was a bit strange. I'd started the season at Shrewsbury and I'd started pre-season well, and the call came in that Shrewsbury had accepted a bid from Gretna. It was the day before the first game of the season. I remember coming up on the Friday thinking, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, but I managed to get the deal done and I was on the bench on the Saturday and I think we beat Hamilton 6-0. And I thought, oh no, I'm going to struggle to get in this team. Fortunately, I played the week after and we scored 2. Week after, played Queens here, scored 2, which didn't go down too well. And I just started scoring goals. Even when I wasn't playing well, I was scoring goals and the team were flying. And we managed to have a really successful season that year. I had a few run-ins with Queens that year, which makes it all the more satisfying that the Queens fans came back to support me when I played for Queens, because obviously I wasn't their favourite person at that time. But a really good season, great people. I'm not going to say a great club, great people at the club. It just wasn't run best wise, put it that way.
You scored a combined total of 250 career goals in over 500 appearances, making it approximately a goal every 2 games. What would you say your proudest or sort of best goal was in your most memorable game?
Okay, okay, I've scored in the Scottish Cup semi-final against Celtic, which I enjoyed. Scored at Celtic Park, obviously being a Celtic fan, I enjoyed that. Scoring against Rangers was enjoyable, being a Celtic fan, but I'll always go back to my first ever goal. Um, I've got a mug with the teletext on it, telling me when it was, January 2003, I think it was, away to Partick Thistle in the Premier League for Livingston. My family from Glasgow, everybody's from Mary Hill, so I had a lot of family there that day. Um, and it'll always be my favourite goal. Just I think everybody, if you ask any professional, will always tell you their first goal's the most memorable, and it's the one that I've still got pictures of it. It's one I look back to with a lot of pride.
How did the move, touching back to Livingston, come about, and what was it like coming back to Scotland after your spell down in the northeast?
Well, I was supposed to be signing for Oldham after Newcastle. Mick Wadsworth, who was assistant at Newcastle, had took the Oldham job, and I was signing for Oldham. You'll be far too young to remember ITV Digital, it was called, I'm sure. It was basically like Satana before Satana, and they went bust, and they were sponsoring the football leagues, so there was a big hoorah over the money in the lower leagues in England. So I decided to come back up the road, and then I had the choice between Kilmarnock, Dundee United, or Livingston. And Livingston had just finished third in the Premier League, and they were in UEFA Cup. And I just thought, with John Robertson being a coach there and being a striker that I looked up to, I just thought that was the best move for me. It turned out to be quite good.
How did you find the experience of playing back down in England with Shrewsbury Town, and how did it sort of compare to the Scottish game?
A lot more physical. In League Two with Shrewsbury, I went down there after Livingston, and it's a lot more physical. You've got to be stronger. You've got to be quicker. I wouldn't say you've got to be technically any much better than up here. I think we're very hard on ourselves up here about how good we are technically, but down there I think it's a bit more physical. I had to learn how to use my body down there. I had to learn how to use like, the dark arts of the game, buying free kicks and using your body. But I loved every minute of it down there. It's a great town. It's one that I've been back to since, and I loved it down there.
Moving on to your spell at Queen of the South, what would you say your standout memories are from your time at Palmerston?
To be fair, I scored a few goals. I did score a few goals for Queens. Standout moments in terms of being on the football park. I captained the club here in my last game at Palmerston against Dundee. Obviously, I'd been made redundant at Dundee, so my young boy Jude was the mascot. We beat Dundee 3-0. I think Kenny Brannigan took me off in the last 2 3 minutes. And to be fair, to get a round of applause for everybody in the stadium, including the away fans and the home fans, it lives with me. It was a great moment. So it was a really good moment. Off the park, I was cup tied for the Challenge Cup final, which was a bit gutting to sit and watch the boys struggle that day because they've done well that season, fourth in the championship and the Challenge Cup final. I just wish I'd been able to be available for them to help them out that day.
Who were the characters in the dressing room back then, and that sort of stick out in your mind?
Well, we had Derek Holmes. Big Homer was always a character. We had David Lilly, who had a great job playing for Queens. I think he did 2 spells. David Hutton in goals was mad. Guff, who I knew all my days in the middle of the centre halves. Wee Bob Harris and young Dan Carmichael was breaking through. But I've got to get a special mention to Willie McLaren. Like, he was crazy. And maverick of a footballer. Don't know if you'll remember Willie McLaren, but go on YouTube, his Queen's goals, honestly, fantastic. But I had to pick him up every day, and I'd pick him up for Easterhouse in Glasgow, and he'd be smoking a fag. And I'd be like, "You're not smoking that in the car, mate." But just an maverick of a football player. And, good laughs out of us.
What was it like working under the current manager at that time, Kenny Brannigan, and are there any standout moments from that time?
Plenty of standout moments, probably some that I probably couldn't mention, to be honest. But remember him chasing somebody down. We used to train at Glasgow Green, and a certain EastEnder, should we say, grabbed a ball and tried to run away with it. Kenny went chasing him down the Clyde at Glasgow Green, ripped the ball back off him. Yeah, it was funny. This aforementioned the Challenge Cup when we went to the pre-match in Perth. I'm sitting. Rocco Quinn was injured. I was cup tied. were at pre-match because he wanted us to be involved in the day. The boys are all sitting there pre-match and getting ready for the game, and Kenny Brannigan put a pint in front of me and Rocco Quinn saying, "You may as well have a pint here, lads, you can't play." So crazy moments like that for Kenny, but he was a character.
You obviously touched on missing out a place in the squad for the 2010 Challenge Cup final due to being cup tied, but what was the day sort of like for you watching on? Was it tough knowing that you couldn't be out there? A disappointing result in the end, but a memorable day?
Yeah, it wasn't memorable. I think if you ask anybody, even the fans that were there, we were really poor that day. And that's probably the hardest thing, sitting in the stand watching it, knowing that you couldn't help your teammates and there was nothing you could do about it. It was a very, very quiet bus on the way home afterwards. And if you ask anybody that played in it, they probably all just want to forget about that day.
You scored 9 goals over your time at Palmerston. Do you have a favourite one or a best one?
Again, your favourite one's probably my first one away to Ross County as a trialist. Um, Best one, I scored a couple of decent ones, scored a volley here against, I think it was Morton, midweek game. And I scored a dent Robert Olynick at Falkirk Stadium against Falkirk. I enjoyed that one as well because I'm not really known for my goals outside the box. So I managed to score a couple from outside the box away to Falkirk, not home to Morton. So I scored a few.
Moving on to some sort of challenges, lessons, what would you say the sort of toughest period of your playing career was, and how did you get through it? What helped you get through it?
As I mentioned, getting made redundant. Administration at Dundee was really tough. A lot of people lost their jobs, me being one of them, and being a bit bewildered with the game. I got a lot of offers for part-time level just to come in and play. I had a couple of offers at full-time, but when Queens came in and it was Kenny Brannigan, and when he told me he had no money, but would I play 3 trialist games for him because they were short on bodies, I would say, yeah, I'd love to help, play for my hometown team. And then it was when I'm sure it was the Barflies supporters club that put the money together to sign me. I just thought that kind of thing from the fans to do for me, especially with the history that I'd scored against Queens with Dundee and Livingston and obviously Gretna. For them still to have that and put that money towards me signing for them, even though it was less than what was getting offered elsewhere, I just thought that I owed them something back. So it made me fall in love with the game again. And that's why the 5 6 months I had at Queens I really enjoyed, and forever thankful for the Queens fans for doing that for me.
Was there ever a time where you potentially considered walking away from the game?
At that time when I'm leaving Dundee, I'm trying to think what age I would have been. I think I would only have been 29 maybe. It was just I was disillusioned with it. Losing your job in that way, nothing to do with the way you were playing on the park, and nothing to do with anything you were in control of. But other than that, no, I've always been a happy-go-lucky kind of person. Injuries, a couple injury setbacks, but nothing. I've always been very determined to get back playing, and even at the age of 44 now, I'd go and play football anywhere. I play over 35s on a Friday night. I play over 40s on a Sunday. I'll keep playing and keep running about as long as my legs let me.
Which manager would you say had the biggest sort of influence on your style of play?
Well, and maybe no manager, but John Robertson as a coach at Livingston, just being a striker. Him and Alan Preston done an awful lot for me at Livingston. Robbo taught me so many things about how strikers find grey areas and how you can peel off centre halves and always to pick what one you want to go on first. So I would definitely say Robbo as a coach. Management, like I thought John Hughes was excellent at Falkirk. Really good man manager. Really, really disciplined on the sports science stuff before anybody else really done it. Wanting to play passing football, which was great for a striker because we got so many opportunities. But then at the same time, I've played under some managers where I was really successful, but probably didn't enjoy them as a manager. At Ross County, had a great season at Ross County. Derek Adams, we probably never really saw eye to eye. Had a great season at Gretna, but again, never really saw eye to eye with the manager at the time, who was Rowan Alexander. So there's a difference between great coaches, great managers, and I like to take the best bits of managers and coaches and try to influence it in my own kind of style.
And then sort of transitioning into coaching and management, what sort of motivated you to move into coaching after your playing days? And was it something that you considered before joining Stenhousemuir?
Well, it's the reason I signed for Stenhousemuir. I had the opportunity to go to Alloa in the Championship, but Stenhousemuir were managed by Scott Booth at the time, and he asked me to come in and do my coaching badges and take the reserve team. So I hadn't thought much about it, and I phoned a couple of people. I phoned John Robertson, I phoned Willie McStay, and they said, "No, you've got to go for it. It's a great opportunity to get your coaching badges and start that." So I went and signed for Stenhousemuir. I was reserves manager, and I was a player. So I was kind of mixing both and taking my badges. And Scott Booth unfortunately got the sack in the December time, and Brown Ferguson took over and asked me if I would come in as a first team coach and a player, and it just went from that. And then obviously Brown lost his job at Stenhousemuir, and I ended up manager at Stenhousemuir, so it all just kind of tumbled into place to step by step. And then that's when I decided to retire from playing when I became the manager at Stenhousemuir.
Do you think it was sort of difficult from being sort of one of the lads to go into sort of managing them, telling them what to do?
Very difficult. I've always been a player's player. I've always been part of the committees, the fine committees. I've always been part of that kind of leadership roles with teams, so I was always in and out of it all. And I underestimated how hard it would be to go from that to being the manager and completely distancing myself from them all. And it's something I've learned how I would deal with things like that differently now than what I did then, because it's really difficult, and I've got a lot of respect for anybody that can do it.
At Dinnersmere, you had your big cup result against Falkirk. Can you sort of take us back to that day and what it felt like for you and the team?
Yeah, well, it was my last game as interim manager. I had 3 games as interim. They were interviewing for people. Obviously, Stenhousemuir Falkirk's a big derby. It was a sellout at Ochilview, and big day for the Stenhousemuir fans. I think we went 1-0 down, and then I think we scored 2 set plays that we'd worked on all week to be up 2-1 at half time. And I remember saying to the players at half time that they could go make themselves legends at the club, because it's not very often it happened. And to be fair, we should have won by more. I think it finished 4-2 that day. The boys were excellent. Me as a manager didn't enjoy it as much as I probably should have. And I remember going home that Saturday night and just buzzing, and then it was the Sunday morning that Stenhousemuir phoned me and offered me the job to become the manager. I think it all built off that significant win against Falkirk, and the fact that I think 3 weeks later we went to Pittodrie in the next round and drew 1-1 up at Pittodrie. That gave us a wee bit of hope about staying up that year. And no, it's something that'll live with me, and I still go back to Steny now, and everybody will go into the wee bar at Ochilview, and forever and ever I'll always be remembered as a manager that beat Falkirk in the Scottish Cup, so it's something to be very proud of.
Would you say the biggest lessons were from your time at Stenhousemuir? Obviously, it was your first taste of management, and is it something that you still go by to this day?
Listen, as a young manager, I made mistakes, and I've learned so much from it. I realised I wasn't experienced enough to take the manager's job at the time, and I probably shouldn't have. But I got caught up in it all, and I think a lot of people say that you might never get the opportunity to take the job again. But I think there's certain clubs that probably aren't right for first time managers. I think Stenhousemuir at that time probably wasn't right for a first time manager. But I had a great relationship with the board. I still got a great, well, not so much the board now, but the old board that were there when I was there, I've got a great relationship with them. And I've learnt a lot about it. I've learned a lot about man management. I've learned about managing up. I've learned about different coaching techniques. I've learned about maybe letting my staff have a wee bit more input. I was very controlling and I wanted it done this way, that way, this way, that way. So I've kind of learned to kind of take a step back and I would let my staff do a wee bit more than they did at the time. And that was my fault because it was me that pushed them that way. It was me that was in charge of everything. So I've definitely learned a lot about it.
You then went sort of full circle back to Annan Athletic in 2021 as the assistant manager, where it all began for you as a player. How did that sort of moment feel like for you?
It was great. I remember I played with Peter Murphy at Celtic Nation. Played against him. I was at Steny. He was at Ayr United. Um, and when the phone call came through, when the gaffer phoned me and said, would I be interested in coming down to help him and be his assistant? I just thought it was too good an opportunity to turn down. Obviously, I knew the club very well, knew the manager well, and I just thought it was a good opportunity to get back coaching, no need to manage, and just get back on the training field and putting my ideas across that way. It turned out we had a really successful 3-4 years down there, and it's something that I've enjoyed every minute of.
How different would you say the club was from the time from when you first sort of started in 1999?
It's not changed all that much, to be honest. It's still the same people behind the scenes that were there when I was an 18-year-old. It's all run by volunteers, all good people. Got a lot of time for them all. It was Mary Hamilton who's ran the bar there for 30 years, 35 years. Her leaving do a few weeks ago, and I made sure I went down and said my goodbyes to her and her thanks because they all looked after me. So behind the scenes, I don't think it's changed that much. Obviously, they've had to grow with Dash Tough going down, the stand going up. But no, it's just a lovely club run by great people.
And then you've went back full circle again, back to Queen of the South, joining as assistant manager. How did the opportunity for that role sort of come about?
Again, when the manager phoned me when he was at Palmerston one day, the day that he got made manager, he phoned me and asked me if I would come on board. Obviously, the lure of full-time football, the lure of coming back to Queen of the South, coming back to Dumfries. It was just an opportunity that I thought I had to take because I would work as hard as I possibly could to bring any kind of success to this football club. And to bring any success to it, I would be absolutely over the moon with. So, opportunity that I couldn't turn down, and I'm looking forward to working hard to see where it takes us.
So what's it like sort of working alongside the current manager, Peter Murphy, as well as the coaching staff and shaping the team's current style?
I'm loving it. Obviously, at the moment, we're having a bit of bother with injuries. It's really difficult trying to keep everybody fit, and we're putting an awful lot of load on the players. But fully, fully think that once we've got everybody injured, everybody's free from injury, that we can be successful. I know that I trust the players, trust the management. We've got good staff here. We've got great people helping us in the background with physios and Kev the kit man and the groundsman. We've got good people, and if we're all pulling in the same direction, I'm pretty sure we can be successful. If that means promotion, if that means winning leagues, if that means going far in cup competitions, I'll work my hardest to make sure that can happen.
Touched on it there, obviously your hopes and ambitions without giving too much away for the current season and beyond.
Listen, first and foremost, we want to be top four. We want to be in the playoffs at a very minimum. We want to get out of this league. That's what I'm saying. We want to win promotion, whether that's through playoffs or winning leagues, cup runs. We just need to be successful. We need to be better than last year. Last year was disappointing the way it ended, but we need to be better than last year. And once we've got everybody fit, I'm pretty sure we will be.
What would you sort of say your proudest moment is from on the touchline through your spell,
At Queen of the South?
or any?
Yeah, but like, as I've said, even in my whole of football, I get asked this question a lot, and I've heard people answer it different ways. The fact that I left Dumfries in 1999 and I'm back here 26 years later, still involved in professional football, is probably my proudest thing. The fact that I'm still involved in football, that I'm here. I've seen boys leave football after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and I'm 26 years down the line and I'm still involved in it. I think that's probably my proudest and most satisfying moment. In terms of on the field, I've won a few championships, I've won promotions, I've won individual awards, but they things don't happen unless you've got good people around you. So I'm very lucky that I've had good people around me and I'm still here and I'm still working hard.
Absolutely. So just to finish off, we've got some kind of quick fire questions, and then we had a couple sent in from social media as well. So first of all, we'll start with the best player you've played with.
I know I've answered this 100 times as well, and I've probably changed my mind a million times. I played with a boy at Livingston called David Fernandez, who then went on to play for Celtic and Kilmarnock and Dundee United. Just a magician of a footballer. Helpful for me as a striker as well, but left-footed, right tackles. He was strong. He'd scored goals. He would assist goals. If you ask any Livingston fan, he's probably in their top three of all time players as well. I'd have to say, technically wise, he's probably the best I've played with.
Toughest defender you've came up against.
Ooh, that's tough as well because all defenders made it hard for me. But I remember playing against Bobo Baldy. I remember playing against Johan Boomsong at Rangers. But I think the toughest would probably be I played against Van Dijk once, and he made me look like a wee boy. And at that point in my career, I was probably the last year of full time and probably at my strongest. He was just far too quick, far too strong, far too good for me.
If you could relive one moment of your entire career, what would it be?
That is a tough one. I'd love to go back to make my debut. Just that moment. I think there was only 4 minutes left. It was away to Aberdeen, at Pittodrie, a great stadium. Just go back to that moment. The first time feeling ever running onto a professional football field in the Premier League. That moment will live with me forever.
And if you weren't a footballer, what would you be?
Well, I'm a qualified electrician, so I went to college when I was part-time footballer to go back to being an electrician. So it would probably be something to do with my hands. Before I left Dumfries, I was an apprentice joiner with Robinson and Davison. Probably the older fans will remember who they were. Um, so I'd be doing something with my hands, but right now I'm qualified as an electrician, so I could be an electrician as well.
And then just someone sent in from social media, if you could play any position apart from striker, what would it be and why?
That's a crazy question because everybody wants to be a striker. Like everybody wants to score the goals. If anything, I'd play a centre half because it's the easiest. Say that to the centre halves all the time. Honestly, all they need to do is head it and kick it. So, but as a striker, everybody wants to be a striker. Ask everybody, they want to be a striker. Everybody wants to score the goals. Everybody wants to take the glory. But in terms of how easy the game would be, I would go and play a centre half and just play there and just pass it to my midfielders and let them do all the hard stuff.
How was your time at Livingston?
My time at Livingston, loved it. I've been back up there a few years ago. I went and done a quiz night with the Livy fans, and they, I was supposed to be a guest last season for them, but it didn't match up with other fixtures and their fixtures. But again, I had 3.5 years, 3 years, 4 years at Livingston in the Premier League, and gave me the platform again just to carry on with my career and gave me a good grounding.
Your favourite footballing memory, coaching or playing?
As I say, making my debut is up there and scoring my first goal. Um, Other than that, I'm not too big on achievements. I'm more about the moments, and the moments have always been the final whistle against Falkirk when we beat them in the cup, or scoring my first ever goal. Like I still have. I'm Queen's fans won't like it, but my first goal at Palmerston for Gretna, I took absolute barrage of abuse. It was a Sunday, it was bank holiday weekend, and scoring in front of the Portland Road side. Just those kind of moments that'll live you forever.
Well, that is the end of the episode. Thank you very much for your time, for
problem.
joining us.
Thanks very much for having me, Emily.